Hello and welcome to a Wealth of Advice update where we're going to look at what was said in yesterday's spring statement by Rachel Reeves. So Rachel Reeves had a very impactful first budget back in October where lots of drastic changes were made to taxation, a lot of which we're still digesting now. All the client review meetings that we've been having over the last few months since this budget and our client conference we had at the end of January, we focused on this in quite a big area. We're still looking at it. We're still looking at different options and solutions. Lots of clients will have requirements and objectives of what they need as assets and what they need to spend in the future, and now we have more tax complications to navigate around. Thankfully, yesterday's spring statement didn't really have any more new bombshells in there, and it was quite a damp squib, to be honestly truthful with you. There wasn't much in there that came out of it. The big headline yesterday was that Rachel Reeves has said she's going to try and repair a £14 billion hole in our public finances, and they're looking to do that through a combination of factors. The main one, which has made the news, is to try and reduce the amount that's paid out on welfare and benefit payments. They think there's a lot of people who are claiming money where they're getting either far too much or they shouldn't be eligible for that. Good luck with that one, especially from a Labour Party, which was ultimately the party that invented a lot of these benefits back in the day. It did feel like it was conservative type of policies that were coming across, but we shall see how that unfolds. So before the spring statement, there was, as there always is, a lot of negative press coming around. One of the negative stories that there was an anticipation that they were going to reduce the amount that you can put into ISAs. That hasn't happened. She did announce that the ISA subscription limit is going to be frozen to £20,000 a year, at least until 2030. Obviously, we would encourage all clients who have investment amounts outside of ISAs to put them into ISAs. We actively engaging clients in doing that. Anyone who's watching this who has cash savings in the bank that are in regular savings account that aren't in cash ISAs, and you don't need to utilise your ISA allowances through what we do with your investments. So spare cash that's in savings accounts, put that into a cash ISA, then you won't be paying any tax on their interest. There was a client in our office just last week who had something like 6 or 7 different accounts with a particular bank, all of which were outside of ISA, and when we totaled up all the cumulative interest, they were well above the tax-free savings interest allowance that you can have, and they were paying 20% tax on the amount above it. It wasn't necessary. They could all be put together into a combination of cash ISAs and they would save that, so we would recommend everyone utilises that. Again, any queries, questions about ISAs, get in touch. The junior ISA allowance is going to remain £9,000 during 25-26, and nothing else was really said about that. There was no changes on pensions, no changes on anything really. They did say some of the key fiscal announcements from yesterday is that they will increase defence spending to 2.5% of GDP by 2027. That keeps Donald Trump happy. This is what he was saying about NATO nations not pulling the weight. They're going to spend more on defence. Keir Starmer was across in America a few weeks ago. We want him to get a trade deal. That would be good for the UK. So this is what they're doing. They're trying to keep Donald Trump on side. They also said they're going to invest £2 billion in social and affordable housing. So the house building reaches a 40-year high and reaches this target of building 1.5 million new homes by the end of this Parliament. Like I say, cynical me wonders whether that's other old stories regurgitated. Will they build 1.5 million new homes? Will there be new schools, hospitals, roads, all the infrastructure that goes with it? I'd love to see that happen because that would be good for an economy. It would be good growth. They're talking about introducing a £3.25 billion transformation fund to streamline public services using technology and artificial intelligence. Again, I'm starting to sound like an old cynical person. I've been around long enough where the NHS knew super database was going to save cost and it created more expense, and I don't think it really worked the way it wanted to. In my industry, we were promised a pensions dashboard from the government, still hasn't come online. So let's see how this happens at a time when the government has announced it's going to try and reduce administrative budgets by the 15% by the end of this decade. So as you can see by my cynical tones here, the jury's out as to whether this will actually come off and whether it would generate growth. I want it to. Our economy needs growth, and we want to see markets grow on the back of that over the next few years. So the chart you can see on the screen now shows how Rachel Reeves' proposed welfare cuts will save £4.5 billion a year up to 2030. Obviously, people watching this, my family, there'll be people affected by it. I've already spoke with someone who's really worried about how this will affect them, but the government is hell-bent on pulling this off. I also know lots of people who have abused the benefit system over the years. It's one of those things that a government will go after, and it will not win them votes by and large from the people who are going to be affected by it. But other sides of the people in the economy will appreciate this, and if they can save money over the long run, they will then argue that they can make tax cuts, and that's where I think this government is going. I think it does the painful stuff at the beginning of this Parliament term. We're now 4 months away from the first anniversary of the Labour Party winning by what can only be described as a landslide last year. But if we're 1 year into this Parliament term, that means we've only got 4 years left to go. So they're going to have to start coming up with stuff which they hope will get people to vote for them next time round. So these benefit cuts, which is going to affect the personal independence payments, that's going to be the main one, where you're going to have a stricter eligibility criteria from November 2026. And as I say, the Office of Budgetary Regulation believes that this is going to save them 4.8 billion a year by 2030. The health-related universal credit for new claimants, which was already due to be cut from £97 a week to £50 a week, that will now not rise again with inflation until after 2030. Under 22s will no longer be able to claim the health-related element of universal credit. The standard allowance for universal credit will rise by £14 a week instead of the £15 a week. So they're really going after this, which, as I said earlier, I think is quite surprising for a Labour government. Why are they doing this? Well, they are saying that they want to be able to stimulate growth in the economy at some point. Yet on the back of this, it was quite stark, if you look at the numbers, that the OBR, the Office for Budgetary Responsibility, has downgraded its 2025 forecast for the UK growth from 2% in October to 1% this year. The one thing I would say about this chart, when we look at UK forecasted growth rates over the last few years, it seems to me that our growth has always been underestimated. We have had more of a resilient economy, but as time moves on, if there isn't growth stimulated, then things could cut down, and that wouldn't be good for UK markets. Forecasted inflation figures are now forecasted to be higher at 3.2% this year than the previously predicted 2.6%. Again, people who we speak to are saying that things do feel expensive, things aren't coming down, and I think the government is definitely a long way off hitting this notional 2% target that they keep banging on about. Finally, just to end off this little mini update that we're doing now, we are looking at what the market indices have done over the last few months since the beginning of 2025. There's no getting away from the fact that over the last sort of 6 weeks or so, things have been very choppy and are negative. So choppy is not the word, it has been negative. I was sitting dealing with clients today in annual review meetings who was showing that I think maybe the 25th of January was the point where fund values got to a high point and have come down. March the 12th, I believe, was a low point when I was looking at some of the numbers. And things have picked back up slightly, but I mean, last night I got in, put Bloomberg on and Trump's on the TV talking about more tariffs. That is creating uncertainty, it's creating concern, but I don't believe you're going to see an absolute market collapse. Most client portfolios we look at is still positive over the last 12 months, still very much positive if you go back to, say, November 2023. There are clients who started this investment cycle in 2022 who have seen very, very poor returns over that 3-year period. 2022 was very, very negative, but we do believe and we do hope that Trump, although it sounds like chaos, he does have a plan ultimately which will result in the US cutting interest rates, companies and corporations over there getting their tax rates cut, and that will spur their market on. As we know, if the US market does well, the other markets seem to rise up as well. So thanks again for listening to this update about the spring statement. Don't believe there was much in there of note. We will keep an eye on what the Chancellor has to say as every day passes, and we will keep looking at possible inheritance tax and other taxation solutions and make sure all our clients get the best advice possible. As ever, thank you.